The big meeting room on the space station was very quiet. Hundreds of different alien creatures sat in their seats, waiting to hear what would happen next. The room was huge, with walls made of special glass that showed the stars outside. Each alien looked different from the others. Some had 4 arms, others had no arms at all. Some were tall and thin, others were short and round. Ambassador Zethkar stood up from his chair. He was from a race called the Hegemony. His body looked like a giant bug with hard skin that shined in the light. He had 4 eyes that moved around as he looked at the other aliens. He was not happy about what the meeting was about today. "My friends," Zethkar said in a loud voice. His words came out through a machine that changed his language so everyone could understand. "We are here to talk about humans. The Council is scared of these creatures for no good reason. They live on a small blue planet far away from here. They are weak and stupid. They have no real weapons. They cannot even travel between stars very." Well, an old alien named Vexthani moved forward in her seat. She was very different from Zethkar. Her body was made of pure light that changed colors when she moved. She had been alive for thousands of years and had seen many things happen in the galaxy. Her voice was soft, but everyone listened when she spoke. "You do not understand, Zethkar," she said. "We are not afraid of what humans can do now. We are afraid of what they might become. Humans are different from all other creatures we have met. They never give up, no matter how bad things get for them." Many of the aliens in the room started laughing. The sound was strange, because each race made different noises when they laughed. Some buzzed like bees, others made clicking sounds with their teeth. Zethkar's people made a sound like grinding metal. "That is silly," Zethkar said, waving one of his 4 arms in the air. "My people have won wars against 17 different worlds. We have beaten creatures much stronger than these humans. What can they do against our big ships and powerful weapons? Nothing at all." Other aliens nodded their heads or made sounds that meant they agreed. The Skarn were a race of huge, strong creatures who loved to fight. They thought humans would be easy to beat. The Nexus Collective were very smart aliens who used computers to think about everything. Their computers said humans would lose any war, but some of the older aliens stayed quiet. They had lived for a very long time and remembered things that the younger races had forgotten. They knew that sometimes the most dangerous enemies were the ones that looked weak at first. Vexthani tried again to make them understand. "Listen to me carefully. We have studied human history for many years. We know how they lived on their home planet. They are the only intelligent race we have found that had to fight to stay alive every single day. Most creatures that become smart do so because they are safe. Humans became smart because they had to, or they would die." She made the air in the room show pictures of Earth from long ago. The other aliens could see humans hunting big animals with simple tools. They saw humans fighting each other in great wars. They saw humans living through ice ages and natural disasters that would have killed most other races. "Look at this," Vexthani said, pointing to the pictures. "Humans are both hunters and prey. They learned to kill big animals for food, but they also had to hide from even bigger animals that wanted to eat them. This made them very good at both attacking and defending. No other race in the galaxy has this experience." Zethkar made an angry noise. "You are telling us old stories that do not matter. Yes, maybe humans were tough on their home planet, but now they face the power of space travel and energy weapons. Their old skills mean nothing against modern technology." "You are wrong," said another old alien. This one looked like a tree made of crystal. "We have watched humans since they first looked up at the stars. When they found a problem they could not solve with strength, they used their minds. When they could not use their minds, they worked together. When working together was not enough, they found new ways to think about the problem. The crystal alien continued speaking. Humans sent small robots to other planets before they could travel there themselves. When the robots broke, humans built better ones. When those broke, they built even better ones. They never stopped trying. This is not normal behavior for most races. Some of the aliens in the room began to look worried. They had not thought about humans this way before. But Sethkar was not ready to change his mind. All races build robots, he said. All races try to solve problems. This does not make humans special. What makes them dangerous to us? They have only a few small spaceships. Their weapons are simple. Their armies are tiny compared to ours. Vexthani's light grew brighter, which meant she was getting upset. You still do not understand. Humans do not fight the way other races fight. When we go to war, we use our strongest weapons and our biggest armies. We try to win quickly with force. Humans do something different. They study their enemy. They find weak spots. They attack where the enemy does not expect. They make their enemy's strength become a weakness. She showed more pictures in the air. These showed human wars from their history. The aliens could see small groups of human soldiers defeating much larger armies by being clever. They saw humans winning battles by hiding and attacking at the right time instead of fighting face to face. In every human war, the side that looked weaker at the start sometimes won in the end, Vexthani explained. They call this asymmetric warfare. It means fighting in a way that makes the enemy's advantages useless. An alien that looked like a giant octopus raised several of its arms. But surely their primitive technology limits what they can do. Our sensors show they barely understand how to make energy shields or plasma weapons. That is exactly what makes them dangerous, Vexthani replied. They will not try to beat us with the same weapons we use. They will find completely different ways to fight, ways we have never seen before. The meeting room became very quiet. Many aliens were starting to understand what the old ones were, trying to tell them. But not all of them. Zethkar stood up straighter and spoke in a loud, confident voice. I have heard enough of these scary stories. The hegemony has decided to deal with the human problem once and for all. Within 1 year, their worlds will belong to us. Their people will work as slaves on our farms. This council's fears will be proven wrong. He looked around the room at all the other aliens. Any race that wants to join us in this easy victory is welcome. There will be plenty of rewards to share when we divide up human space. Several younger alien races made sounds that meant they were interested. They saw a chance to get new worlds and resources without much fighting. But Vexthani and the other old aliens looked very sad. They had tried to warn everyone, but the young races would not listen. They knew what was probably going to happen next, and it would not be good for anyone. You have been warned, Vexthani said one last time. Humans may look weak now, but they are a race that was made strong by constant struggle. Their whole evolution was shaped by having to survive impossible situations. We have seen their history. They are the only intelligent race that learned to be both predator and prey at the same time. Zethkar laughed his grinding metal laugh. Old stories and superstition. The hegemony will show this council how wrong it has been. The human problem will be solved quickly and efficiently. As the meeting ended, the younger alien races left the room talking excitedly about dividing up human territory. They were already making plans for their easy victory, but the older races stayed behind, talking quietly among themselves. They remembered other times when young races had ignored their warnings. Those times had not ended well for the young races. They looked out at the stars and worried about what was coming. Humans might be different from any race the galaxy had ever seen, and that difference might change everything. The hegemony war fleet came out of hyperspace like a metal storm. 300 huge warships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each ship was over a kilometer long and filled with weapons that could destroy entire cities. The fleet moved forward toward the small blue planet that had been the subject of so many meetings and arguments. Admiral Vexmore stood on the bridge of his flagship called the Dominator. He was very pleased with himself. His 4 eyes moved back and forth as he watched the displays showing his powerful fleet. Intelligence reports had told him that humans only had about 50 spaceships that could fight in space. These human ships used simple fusion engines and basic weapons that would break apart like paper when hit by hegemony plasma cannons. "Open a communication channel to the human home planet," he ordered. One of his officers touched controls on a quantum transmitter. Soon the blue and green Earth appeared on the main viewing screen. A human woman appeared on the screen. She had dark skin and looked calm, even though she was facing a fleet that had 1,000 times more firepower than her entire species. She wore a simple military uniform with 5 stars on the shoulders. This was Admiral Sarah Chun, the top commander of all Earth's defense forces. "This is Admiral Chun of Earth. What do you want?" she said in a steady voice. Admiral Vexmore laughed. The sound was like pieces of metal grinding together. "Human, I am Admiral Vexmore of the Hegemony Third Fleet. You will give up right now and accept hegemony rule. Your people will be moved to farming planets where you will work as laborers for us. If you cooperate, we will kill you quickly instead of making you suffer." Admiral Chun's face did not change at all. Behind her, Vexmore could see other humans working calmly at their stations. They acted as if a huge alien war fleet was not about to attack their world. "Admiral Vexmore," Chun said in the same calm voice, "I am going to give you one chance to turn your ships around and leave our solar system. This is the only warning you will get." The entire hegemony bridge became completely silent. Then the alien officers started making loud clicking and chittering sounds that meant they could not believe what they had heard. A human, a member of a race that had barely left their own solar system, was threatening them. Very funny. Exmore clicked his mandibles together. "Fine. Watch what happens when you refuse to obey us." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target. They're space stations that orbit the planet. Begin shooting." "Sir," the weapons officer said, hesitating, "our long-range sensors are picking up something strange. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, ... it is moving." On the tactical display, thousands of objects were indeed moving throughout the solar system. What the hegemony had thought was just space rocks and mining operations suddenly showed their true purpose. They were hidden weapons platforms, secret shipyards, and mobile defense stations that had been disguised as asteroids for many years. Admiral Chun smiled for the first time during the conversation. "You should have listened to the Galactic Council, Admiral. Humans do not surrender. We adapt to any situation." The first human missiles hit the front ships of the hegemony fleet before Admiral Vexmore could understand what was happening. These were not the primitive fusion warheads that his intelligence officers had expected. They were something much more deadly. The missiles were solid chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds, moving so fast that they made hegemony energy shields completely useless. They punched through armor like it was made of thin paper. "This is impossible," Vexmore snarled angrily. "How do they have such advanced technology?" His science officer's voice was shaking with fear. "Sir, our analysis shows these weapons use scientific principles we have never seen before. They are not just fast-moving chunks of metal. They are somehow bending space and time to reach these incredible speeds." More human ships came out of hiding throughout the solar system. Not the small number that intelligence had predicted, but hundreds of sleek, deadly-looking vessels that moved like hunting wolves around the slower, Hegemony Fleet. The human ships were not like anything the Hegemony had seen before. They were smaller than Hegemony warships, but much faster and more maneuverable. They seemed to appear from nowhere, fire their weapons, and then disappear again before the Hegemony ships could shoot back. Admiral, Chan's voice cut through the chaos and confusion. You made the mistake of thinking we would fight you using normal tactics, Admiral. Humans wrote the first books on asymmetric warfare. We have been preparing for this day ever since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. The battle was not going the way Admiral Vexmore had expected at all. His huge, powerful ships were being torn apart by weapons they could not understand and enemies they could barely see. Human missiles continued to slam into Hegemony vessels, each impact sending shockwaves through the alien fleet. How are they moving so fast? Vexmore demanded. Our sensors can barely track them. Unknown, sir, replied his tactical officer. They seem to be using some kind of space-folding technology that is far beyond our understanding. Our hyperspace jamming fields do not affect them at all. The human ships were not just fast, they were smart. They worked together like a pack of predators, coordinating their attacks to hit Hegemony ships from multiple directions at once. When the aliens tried to focus their fire on one human ship, 3 others would attack from different angles. Even more disturbing was how the humans used their own solar system as a weapon. The asteroid belt was not just hiding human ships and stations. The asteroids themselves had been turned into kinetic weapons. Chunks of rock the size of buildings were being accelerated to enormous speeds and launched at the Hegemony fleet. Sir, called out the navigation officer, the humans have turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Every planet, every moon, every piece of space debris has been weaponized. Admiral Vexmore watched in growing horror as his supposedly invincible fleet was systematically destroyed. The humans were not fighting like any race he had ever encountered. They did not line up their ships and try to overpower the enemy with superior firepower. Instead, they hit and ran, appeared and disappeared, struck from unexpected angles, and used unconventional weapons. This is not how space battles are supposed to work, he shouted. Admiral Chune's image appeared again on his screen. That's your problem, Admiral. You're thinking like every other race in the galaxy. You build bigger ships, more powerful weapons, stronger shields. You fight the same way your ancestors fought 1,000 years ago. More Hegemony ships exploded as human weapons found their targets. The alien admiral could see that he was losing ships much faster than he was destroying human vessels. Humans do not think like other races, Chun continued. We do not try to outmuscle our enemies. We outthink them. We find their weaknesses and exploit them. We use their own strength against them. The human strategy was becoming clear to Vexmore, but understanding it did not help him counter it. The humans had prepared their entire solar system for exactly this kind of invasion. Every piece of space debris, every small moon, every orbital station had been turned into part of a coordinated defense network. You cannot defeat us, Vexmore raged. We have 300 ships. You only have a few dozen. Numbers do not matter when you do not know how to use them effectively, Chun replied. You brought 300 targets into our solar system, Admiral. We have been preparing to destroy exactly this kind of fleet for decades. The battle continued to go badly for the Hegemony. Their ships were designed to fight other ships in open space using conventional tactics. They were not prepared for an enemy that used the environment as a weapon. That struck from hiding and disappeared before they could be hit back. Human ships continued to emerge from concealment throughout the solar system. They came from behind planets, from inside asteroid fields, from the shadows of moons. Each new group of human vessels struck at the Hegemony fleet and then vanished again before they could be targeted. Sir, we have lost over 200 ships, reported the tactical officer. At this rate, the entire fleet will be destroyed within hours. Admiral Vexmore's confidence had completely disappeared. This was supposed to be an easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, it had become a nightmare of hit-and-run attacks by an enemy that seemed to know exactly what the hegemony would do before they did it. "Order a retreat," he said quietly. "Sir?" The communications officer asked, not sure he had heard correctly. "I said order a retreat," Vexmore shouted. "All ships withdraw to the edge of the system immediately." As the surviving hegemony ships tried to escape, Admiral Chon's voice followed them one last time. "Tell your leaders what you have seen here, Admiral. Tell them that Earth remembers its friends and never forgives its enemies. You started this war. We will finish it." Of the 300 ships that had entered the Sol system, only 53 managed to escape. All of them were damaged and would need months of repairs before they could fight. Again, Admiral Vexmore sat in his command chair as his fleet limped away from Earth. He had been so confident just hours before. Now he understood that the Galactic Council had been right to warn against attacking humans, but it was too late. The war had begun, and the hegemony had just. The hegemony High Command received Admiral Vexmore's emergency message with shock that quickly turned into rage. Of his 300 powerful warships, only 50 had escaped from the Sol system. Even those ships were badly damaged and could not fight again for many months. The human fleet had chased them to the edge of the solar system before turning back, but not before sending a message that made every hegemony commander afraid. "Tell your leaders," the human admiral had broadcast to the fleeing ships, "that Earth remembers its friends and never forgives its enemies. You started this war. We will finish it." Supreme Admiral Cole Fick was the highest-ranking military officer in all of hegemony space. He stood before the War Council in a state of barely controlled anger. His hard outer shell had turned dark red, which showed he was extremely upset. "Explain to me," he said in a dangerous voice, "how a primitive species with fewer than 50 combat ships destroyed most of our Third Fleet." The intelligence coordinator Veltar projected holographic recordings of the battle into the center of the room. "Supreme Admiral, our first assessment of human capabilities was completely wrong. Human military tactics appear to be based on deception, speed, and weapon systems that work in ways we do not understand. The battle recordings showed human ships appearing from what looked like empty space. Their weapons cut through hegemony shields as if the shields were not even there. Even worse, the humans had used their own asteroid belt as a massive weapon system, launching rocks at near-light speed with deadly accuracy. More troubling," Beltar continued, "is their industrial capacity. Our deep space scouts report that they have turned their entire solar system into a military base. Every moon, asteroid, and space station has been converted into either a fortress or a shipyard." Admiral Colfick's mandibles clicked together in a threatening way. "Then we will crush them before they can spread to other systems. Order the first through Fifth Fleets to assemble. 2,000 ships will turn their solar system into space dust." But as the massive hegemony armada began to gather, disturbing reports started coming in from across their territory. Human ships, impossibly fast and nearly invisible to sensors, were appearing throughout hegemony space. They did not attack major fleet bases or heavily defended worlds. Instead, they struck supply convoys, isolated outposts, and communication stations with surgical precision. Commander Hex Dai was in charge of a supply depot on Vorthen Prime, a planet deep inside hegemony territory. He watched in horror as his installation was reduced to melted metal in just seconds. The human attack had come without any warning. 6 sleek vessels appeared from nowhere, destroyed his entire base, and vanished before his defense platforms could even detect them. How are they moving so fast? He demanded of his sensor operator. Unknown, sir. They seem to be using some form of space folding technology that is far beyond anything we understand. Our hyperspace blocking fields have no effect on them at all. Similar attacks were happening at the same time across the entire hegemony empire. Fuel refineries, weapons factories, communication hubs, all struck with terrifying precision and efficiency. The humans were not just fighting a war. They were systematically destroying the infrastructure that made hegemony expansion possible. The speed of the human attacks was impossible to believe. A supply convoy would be destroyed near one star, and minutes later another convoy would be attacked near a completely different star hundreds of light years away. Either the humans had thousands of ships, or they had developed technology that allowed them to travel faster than anyone thought possible. On Earth, Admiral Chun stood in the newly built war room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Holographic displays showed the entire galaxy in real time, with red dots showing successful human strikes and blue dots showing hegemony positions. Status report, she commanded. Colonel Martinez, her chief of operations, highlighted several sectors of space. Phase 1 is going better than we planned. We have successfully damaged their supply lines across 17 star systems. Their main fleet is huge, but they are having trouble coordinating their movements without their communication network. What about our casualties? Very few on our side. The new quantum tunnel drives are working even better than expected. We can strike anywhere in the galaxy and be back in soul space within hours. Admiral Chun nodded grimly. She remembered the day 20 years ago when humanity had first detected signs of aggressive alien civilizations in nearby star systems. While diplomats had hoped for peaceful contact, military planners had prepared for the worst possible scenario. Quantum tunnel drive had been humanity's greatest scientific breakthrough. It was a technology that did not just bend space-time like other faster-than-light systems. Instead, it created temporary wormholes that bypassed normal physics entirely. Combined with human tactical doctrine developed through thousands of years of warfare on Earth, it had turned humanity's defenders into the galaxy's most effective guerrilla force. Admiral, her intelligence chief, approached with a worried expression. We are detecting massive fleet movements throughout hegemony space. They are not just sending reinforcements to attack us again. They are mobilizing everything they have. Chun studied the tactical displays carefully. The hegemony was committing over 3,000 ships to a new campaign against Sol. They were stripping defenses from across their empire to gather this enormous fleet. Perfect, she said quietly. Signal. All deep strike teams. It is time for Phase 2. The human deep strike teams were small groups of ships that had been positioned throughout hegemony space over the past several months. They had been hiding in asteroid fields, behind planets, and in the empty space between stars. Each team had been waiting for exactly this moment, when the hegemony would commit most of their forces to attacking Earth. As the hegemony's main fleets moved toward Sol, the human teams struck at targets that were now only lightly defended. Military academies, government centers, industrial worlds, all hit simultaneously by human forces that appeared from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. The attacks were not random. They had been carefully planned to cause maximum disruption. To hegemony society, communication networks went down, preventing different parts of the empire from coordinating with each other. Supply networks were severed, leaving distant colonies unable to get the resources they needed. Transportation hubs were destroyed, making it impossible for civilian and military traffic to move efficiently. But the most devastating attacks were on the hegemony's industrial base. Humans did not just destroy factories and shipyards. They specifically targeted the facilities that produced the most advanced components for hegemony technology. Without these specialized parts, the aliens could not repair their damaged ships or build new ones. Supreme Admiral Cole Thick received reports of the attacks while his main fleet was still several days away from Earth. Each new report was worse than the last. Entire star systems were going silent as their communication networks were destroyed. Colonies were reporting that they were cut off from all outside contact. How is this possible? He raged. We are tracking fewer than 200 human ships in our territory. How can so few vessels cause so much damage? His intelligence officer looked terrified as he delivered his report. Sir, we believe the humans are using a completely different approach to warfare than any race we have encountered. Instead of trying to defeat our military forces directly, they are attacking our ability to maintain those forces. What do you mean? They are not trying to destroy our ships in battle, sir. They are making it impossible for us to fuel, repair, or replace those ships. Without supplies and support, even our most powerful warships become useless. Colfex stared at the strategic display showing human attacks across his empire. Red warning symbols were appearing faster than his staff could process them. The humans were systematically dismantling everything that held the hegemony together. This is not how civilized species conduct warfare, he said. No, sir, the intelligence officer agreed. But it appears to be extremely effective. The human strategy was becoming clear to the hegemony leadership, but understanding it did not help them counter it. The humans had studied their enemy carefully and identified exactly which targets would cause the most damage with the least effort. They were not interested in glorious battles or honorable combat. They were interested in winning as efficiently as possible. Doc reports continued to flood in from across hegemony space. The humans were not just hitting military and industrial targets. They were also striking at the social and political infrastructure that held the hegemony together. Government buildings, communication centers, transportation networks, all were being systematically destroyed. Even more disturbing was the speed and coordination of the attacks. Human ships were appearing simultaneously in dozens of different star systems, striking their targets and disappearing before any response was possible. The level of coordination required for such operations suggested that humans had developed communication technology that was far more advanced than anything the hegemony possessed. Sir, reported the communications officer, we are losing contact with entire sectors of our territory. The humans have destroyed so many. The largest fleet in hegemony history dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system in perfect formation. 3,000 of their finest warships arranged themselves in attack patterns that had been used successfully for centuries. Supreme Admiral Cole Thick stood on the bridge of his super dreadnought called the Annihilator, confident that no force in the galaxy could withstand such overwhelming firepower. Scan the entire system, he ordered. Find every human ship and space station. His sensor operator made confused clicking sounds with his mandibles as he studied the readings. Sir, I am reading very little activity. Perhaps 50 ships in orbit around their home planet, and the asteroid belt appears to be normal. Colthick's 4 eyes narrowed suspiciously. After the devastating defeat of the Third Fleet, he had expected to find elaborate defenses, hidden weapons platforms, and thousands of the fast human vessels that had been attacking hegemony territory. For months, it must be a trap, his tactical officer warned. They are hiding their true strength somehow. Of course it is a trap, Colthick clicked dismissively. But what can 50 ships and some hidden installations do against 3,000? Begin the advance. Use battle formation Omega-7. The massive alien fleet began moving toward Earth with weapon systems charging and shields at maximum power. But as they crossed the orbit of Jupiter, something unprecedented began to happen. Space itself started to change. Sir, the science officer's voice cracked with panic. ion detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. The quantum structure of spacetime is becoming unstable. On the main viewing screen, stars began to disappear from view, replaced by swirling whirlpools of distorted spacetime. The asteroid belt, which had appeared normal just moments before, suddenly revealed its true nature. It was not just a collection of rocks orbiting the sun. It was a network of connected quantum tunnels that turned the entire inner solar system into a maze of wormholes. Admiral Chun's image appeared on every hegemony ship at the same time, her voice carrying a coldness that made veteran warriors shiver. Supreme Admiral Kolthik, I assume, welcome to Soul Space. You have made a critical error in your assessment of humanity. Impossible, Kolthik snarled. How are you broadcasting through our secure communication channels? Because, Admiral, you still do not understand what you are facing. The Galactic Council tried to warn you, but you were too proud to listen. Humans are not just another species you can conquer. We are what happens when evolution creates the perfect survivors. Around the hegemony fleet, space continued to warp and twist in impossible ways. Ships found themselves separated from their squadrons as quantum tunnels opened and closed around them, scattering the massive armada across vast distances. You see, Chun continued, while you were building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, we were learning to rewrite the laws of physics. Every human who dies in this war makes us stronger, more determined, and more creative in finding new ways to fight back. The first hegemony ships began to vanish. They were not destroyed by explosions or weapon fire. Instead, they were transported through quantum tunnels to unknown locations. Other ships found themselves caught in artificial gravity wells that should not exist, their hulls crushed by forces that defied all conventional understanding. Our entire solar system, Chun's voice echoed through the chaos, has been converted into a weapon. Every planet, every moon, every piece of space debris is now part of a quantum network that we control completely. Admiral Kolthik watched in, growing horror as his seemingly invincible fleet was being systematically dismantled without a single less energy beam being fired at them. Ships were being flung across the galaxy through artificial wormholes, their crews left stranded light years from home with no way to return. Others found themselves trapped in temporal loops, repeating the same few seconds of existence over and over forever. This cannot be possible, he raged. No species can manipulate space-time on this scale. Admiral Chun's smile was like that of a predator watching trapped prey. No species except humanity, Admiral. Do you know what makes us different from every other race in the galaxy? We are the only species that evolved as both hunter and hunted. We learned to kill for food, but we also learned to hide from things that wanted to kill us. We developed pack tactics for working together, but we also mastered individual survival skills. Most importantly, we learned that when you cannot overpower your enemy, you must outthink them. The quantum field generators hidden throughout the Sol system reached full power. The entire solar system became a maze of connected wormholes, gravity, wells, and spatial distortions that only human vessels could navigate safely. The humans had spent decades turning their home system into the ultimate defensive weapon. Your mistake, Chun concluded, was thinking this would be a conventional war fought with conventional tactics. Humans do not fight conventional wars. Admiral, we fight to win, using whatever means are necessary. And we never, ever give up. Hegemony ships continued to disappear or become trapped in impossible situations. Some found themselves inside planets, their matter somehow occupying the same space as solid rock. Others were stretched across multiple dimensions, their crews experiencing reality from several different perspectives at once. The few hegemony vessels that managed to fire their weapons found that their energy beams were redirected through quantum tunnels, causing them to shoot at their own ships instead of human targets. Even their most powerful plasma cannons became useless when the laws of physics themselves could be manipulated by their enemy. How did you develop such technology? Kolfik demanded as his own ship was caught in a slowly tightening gravity. Spiral. We did not develop it, Admiral. We discovered it. When humans first achieved faster-than-light travel, we found that our brains work differently from other species. Most races can only think in 3 dimensions. Humans can visualize and manipulate higher-dimensional mathematics intuitively. It is probably because our ancestors had to think in 3 dimensions just to survive, tracking prey through forests, predicting where predators might attack from above or below. More hegemony ships vanished into quantum tunnels or were crushed by impossible gravitational forces. The massive fleet that had entered the Sol system was being reduced to a handful of vessels, with no understanding of how to fight back. This is not warfare, Kolfik said desperately. This is some kind of magic. No, Admiral. This is what happens when a species that evolved to survive impossible odds gains access to advanced physics. Every human child learns to think in ways that other races cannot comprehend. We see patterns where others see chaos. We find solutions where others see only problems. The quantum manipulation of the Sol system reached its peak. Entire sections of space were folded, twisted, and reorganized according to human will. The hegemony fleet found itself scattered across impossible distances, with some ships literally turned inside out and others existing in multiple time streams simultaneously. Your species builds weapons to destroy enemies, Chon said, as the chaos continued around them. Our species turns the entire universe into a weapon. We do not just use tools, Admiral. We become one with our tools until there is no difference between human intention and physical reality. Of the 3,000 ships that had entered Sol space with such confidence, fewer than 200 managed to find their way to the edge of the system. Even those were only allowed to escape because the humans wanted them to carry a message back to the rest of the galaxy. Supreme Admiral Kolfik found his flagship somehow, spared from the quantum maze, though he did not understand why. As his remaining ships fled toward hyperspace, he received one final transmission from the human admiral. Tell the galaxy what you have seen here, Admiral. Tell them that Earth remembers its enemies and always repays what is owed to them. Tell them that this is what happens when you ignore the warnings of those who are wiser than you. As the last hegemony ships disappeared into hyperspace, the Sol system slowly returned to normal. The quantum fields were shut down, the artificial gravity wells were collapsed, and space-time resumed its usual structure. But Admiral Chun knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity had revealed its true capabilities to the galaxy, and there would be consequences for that revelation. The question now was whether those consequences would lead to peace or to an even larger war. The emergency session of the Galactic Council met under unprecedented circumstances. For the first time in galactic history, an entire sector of space had gone completely silent. Hegemony territory, which had once included over 100 star systems, no longer responded to any communications. No trade ships, no military patrols, no government transmissions. It was as if one of the galaxy's major powers had simply vanished overnight. Ambassador Zethkar stood before the assembly as a completely different creature from the proud, arrogant alien who had dismissed the council's warnings months earlier. His hard outer shell had turned pale gray, and his once confident mandibles clicked nervously as he addressed the chamber. Honored colleagues, his voice was barely above a whisper. I come before you to formally request immediate intervention. The human situation has evolved far beyond our ability to contain or control. Elder Counselor Vexthani looked at him with ancient, knowing eyes that seemed to say, I told you so, without speaking the words. Explain what has happened. Zethkar activated a holographic display It showed what had once been hegemony space. What had previously been marked as over 100 star systems under hegemony control was now covered with ominous red warning zones. 3 days ago, human forces struck every major hegemony installation across our entire territory at exactly the same time. Not just military targets, but civilian infrastructure, government centers, and industrial complexes. They appeared from nowhere, struck with precision that seems impossible, and vanished before any response could be organized. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs and sounds of disbelief. The Skarn war chief leaned forward, his massive frame tense with confusion. Impossible. No species has the capability to coordinate attacks across such vast distances simultaneously. The humans do, Zethkar continued, his voice hollow with defeat. They have somehow weaponized their entire industrial capacity. Every human ship functions simultaneously as a warship, a scout vessel, and a mobile factory. They do not need supply lines because they can manufacture everything they need from local resources wherever they go. He gestured to another display showing mysterious human installations throughout what had been hegemony space. Even worse, they are expanding rapidly. Every star system they have visited now contains these quantum manipulation devices. They are turning entire solar systems into weapons platforms. Admiral Corval of the Nexus Collective, whose mathematical mind had initially calculated human defeat as completely certain, spoke with unprecedented uncertainty in his voice. Our probability calculation systems can no longer model human behavior effectively. They operate outside all conventional strategic doctrine. It is as if they are playing an entirely different game with completely different rules than the rest of us. Elder Vexthani rose slowly from her seat, her body of pure light, pulsing with what might have been sadness or perhaps satisfaction. You were warned, Ambassador Zethkar. This council has observed the rise and fall of countless civilizations over millions of years. We learned long ago to recognize certain dangerous patterns. The ancient being gestured with one limb of light, and new displays appeared showing primitive humans throughout their evolutionary history. The other species could see humans hunting in coordinated packs, surviving ice ages that would have killed most other species, and adapting to every conceivable environment on their dangerous homeworld. Humanity represents something completely unique in our galactic experience. Most intelligent species achieve advanced thinking despite the hostile nature of their environment. Humans achieved intelligence specifically because of their hostile environment. They are the only known species to evolve sentience while remaining both predator and prey, both pack hunter and individual survivor. She paused to let the implications of her words sink into the minds of the assembled aliens. Every other species in this chamber achieved space travel by overcoming and suppressing their aggressive instincts. Humans achieved space travel by refining and perfecting those instincts into something far more sophisticated and dangerous. As if her words had summoned them, a new presence entered the chamber. Admiral Sarah Chun materialized through quantum teleportation, her image clear and solid despite the impossible distance from Earth. She wore the same simple uniform as before, but now additional insignia marked her as Supreme Commander of what? Intelligence reports called the Human Defense Consortium. Honorable counselors, she said, nodding respectfully to the elder races, while completely ignoring the younger, more aggressive species. I believe you have been discussing recent events in former hegemony territory. Zethkar recoiled as if he had been physically struck. What have you done with our colonies? Our civilian populations? Admiral Chun's expression remained completely neutral and emotionless. They have been relocated to more suitable worlds within the territory you surrendered when you declared war on humanity. They are unharmed and well cared for, but they are no longer your responsibility to govern. The casual way she announced the complete conquest and reorganization of an entire Galactic Empire sent shockwaves through the chamber. Species that had existed for thousands of years suddenly realized they were witnessing something completely unprecedented, the emergence of a power that operated by entirely different rules than anything they had ever encountered. The Galactic Council's wisdom in warning against military aggression toward humanity has now been clearly demonstrated. Chun continued in the same calm voice. However, I want to make something absolutely clear to everyone present. Humans do not seek galactic domination or conquest. We seek security and the freedom to develop peacefully. The difference between these goals is crucial to understand. She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show human-controlled space. Unlike the chaotic conquests typical of aggressive expansionist powers, human territory showed carefully maintained boundaries with clear defensive purposes. Every species that has approached us with peaceful intentions has found us to be willing partners in trade, scientific cooperation, and cultural exchange. Every species that has threatened us or attempted to harm us has discovered that we take such threats very seriously indeed. Elder Vexthani spoke carefully, choosing her words with the wisdom of eons. What are humanity's long-term intentions regarding the rest of the galaxy? Simple and straightforward, Chun replied. We want to be left alone to develop our civilization and explore the universe in peace. We are willing to trade knowledge and resources, to cooperate on projects of mutual benefit, and to assist other species with scientific and technological challenges. But we will never again allow another species to threaten human worlds or human lives. The weight of her words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. The galaxy's younger, more aggressive civilizations suddenly found themselves facing a terrible realization. They had awakened something that had been content to remain in the shadows of galactic politics. And now that something was vastly more powerful than anything they had ever encountered before. Ambassador Zethkar made one final, desperate plea. Surely the Council can impose some form of control or limitation on human expansion. The Council warned you repeatedly. Elder Vexthani interrupted firmly. You chose not to listen to our advice. Now you and the entire galaxy must live with the consequences of that choice. Admiral Chan's image began to fade as she prepared to return to human space. The invitation for peaceful coexistence remains open to all species and civilizations. We have no desire for conflict with those who approach us in good faith. But understand this clearly. Humanity has learned the galaxy's traditional rules of engagement, and we have decided to write our own rules instead. I strongly advise all species to choose their next actions very carefully. As her image disappeared completely, the chamber fell into profound and thoughtful silence. The age of casual galactic conquest was over. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors seeking to dominate others, but as something far more dangerous, survivors who had decided they would never be victims again. The younger, more aggressive species would eventually learn to adapt to this new reality. Some would choose the path of cooperation and mutual benefit. Others would continue to test human resolve and learn painful lessons about the consequences of such testing. The elder races simply nodded in ancient understanding, remembering other times in galactic history when the balance of power had shifted so dramatically and completely. And in the depths of space, human ships continued their patient watch over the territory they had claimed, ready to defend what they had built and explore what lay beyond. They were a species finally free to chart their own destiny among the stars, having proven that they would never again accept the role of victims in someone else's story. The galaxy had learned the final lesson about humanity, that they were not a species to be conquered, controlled, or threatened. They were a species to be respected or avoided entirely. The choice, as always, belonged to those who would encounter them in the vast darkness between the stars.